The scream cut through the restaurant like a blade. "Get out!" Every conversation died. Forks froze mid-air. A child began to cry. A young black woman stood shaking in the center of the crowded diner, her hands clenched around a small, crumpled paper bag. Her eyes were wide, glossy with tears she was desperately trying not to let fall. Her clothes were worn but clean. Her shoes, thin, cracked at the soles, told a story she never spoke out loud. In front of her, towering with red-faced rage, was the manager. He slammed his palm onto the counter so hard the cutlery rattled. "I warned you," he barked. "I told you once already, no begging, no charity cases, no freeloaders in MY restaurant." She flinched at the word freeloaders. I'm not begging," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I just asked if there was any food you were going to throw away, just a little, for my children." The word children didn't soften him, it hardened him. The manager laughed, loud, cruel, and sharp enough to sting every ear in the room. "Oh, here we go," he sneered. "Always a story, always an excuse. You people think you can just walk in here and guilt decent folks into feeding your mistakes." A hush fell over the diner. Dozens of eyes watched. No one moved, no one spoke. The woman swallowed, her lips quivering. "They haven't eaten since yesterday morning," she said quietly. "My youngest is sick. Don't lie to me." The manager shouted, pointing a finger inches from her face. "You're trying to scam us. I see it every day. Come in here, play the victim, then walk out with free food like the world owes you something." Her knees buckled slightly. She caught herself on the edge of a chair. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'll leave, I promise. Please don't call the police." That was when he did it. He grabbed the paper bag from her hands and flung it across the room. The bag burst open. A single bread roll hit the floor and rolled slowly, pathetically, to a stop. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The woman stared at the bread like it was a piece of her soul lying there on the tiles. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. "Pick it up," the manager said coldly. "Go on, since you're so desperate." Her face burned with humiliation. She dropped to her knees, right there, in front of everyone. Her hands trembled as she reached for the roll. A man at the counter shook his head but said nothing. A woman looked away, pretending to check her phone. A family pulled their children closer as if poverty itself were contagious. The manager folded his arms, satisfied. "That's right," he said. "Know your place." The woman's fingers closed around the bread. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed silently, trying to keep what little dignity she had left. Then the low rumble of engines echoed outside. At first it sounded distant, then louder, closer. The windows began to vibrate. A few heads turned. The manager scoffed. "What now?" The sound grew thunderous, dozens of motorcycles roaring in unison. The diner door swung open. Cold air rushed in. Black leather jackets filled the entrance. Heavy boots stepped onto the tiled floor. One by one, men and women walked in, their presence commanding, their faces unreadable. The entire diner went silent. The manager's smirk faded. "What is this?" he snapped. "This is a private business." No one answered him. Instead, one man stepped forward, tall, broad-shouldered, gray streaks in his beard, a calm, dangerous stillness in his eyes. He looked past the manager and straight at the woman on the floor. Something in his expression changed. Shock, recognition, pain. He took one slow step forward, then another. The manager puffed out his chest. "Hey, I'm talking to you. If you're here to cause trouble, you can turn right back around." The man didn't even look at him. He knelt down in front of the woman, gently, carefully, as if she were made of glass. "Lena," he said softly. Her head snapped up. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Marcus," she whispered. A murmur swept through the diner. The manager's face drained of color. "You know this woman?" he asked sharply. Marcus stood up slowly. The leather of his jacket creaked as he turned. "Yes," he said calmly, "I do." The manager forced a laugh. "Well, then take her and go. I don't care who she is. She's not welcome here." Marcus stepped closer. So close the manager had to lean back. "You've already made one mistake today," Marcus said quietly. "Humiliating her." The manager sneered. "And what are you gonna do about it? You bikers think you scare me." Marcus's lips curled into a thin, dangerous smile. Behind him, the rest of the bikers stood still, watching, waiting. "Scare you," Marcus said. "No." He leaned in and lowered his voice. "We're here to remind you who she really is," the manager scoffed. "She's a nobody, just another poor girl looking for handouts." Marcus's eyes hardened. The woman on the floor clutched the bread to her chest like a lifeline. Outside, more engines roared. Police sirens wailed faintly in the distance. And then Marcus said the words that made the room freeze completely. "You just attacked the sister of the woman who saved my life in Iraq," he said, "and the mother of 2 children this city swore to protect." The manager's mouth opened. No sound came out. Marcus straightened his jacket and added calmly, "And you have no idea who you've just embarrassed in front of." But little did the cruel manager know, his life was about to be turned upside down, because the woman kneeling on that cold diner floor was not just a desperate mother, and the bikers standing behind her were not just riders. They were guardians, they were witnesses, and one of them knew a secret about her past, a secret that would shock everyone in that room. Let's go back to how this story truly began earlier that same morning. That morning began long before the sun rose. The sky over the city was still dark, heavy with clouds that threatened rain but never quite delivered it. In a narrow apartment squeezed between two abandoned buildings, a single light flickered on. Lena Carter sat up slowly on a thin mattress laid directly on the floor. Her back ached. Her legs felt stiff. But she didn't complain. She never did. She pulled a frayed sweater over her shoulders and listened. The room was quiet except for the soft, uneven breathing of two children sleeping beside her. Malik, 7 years old, curled into a tight ball, his knees pulled to his chest. His stomach growled faintly even in his sleep. Beside him lay Ava, just 3. Her cheeks were too pale, her forehead glistened with sweat. Lena reached out and pressed the back of her hand gently against Ava's skin, still warm, too warm, her heart clenched. "Please," Lena whispered into the dim room. "Just let her fever break." The apartment smelled faintly of damp walls and old paint. The heater hadn't worked in months. The refrigerator in the corner hummed loudly, but inside it held almost nothing. Half a carton of milk, expired yesterday, and a single apple with a bruise on one side. Lena swung her legs off the mattress and stood quietly so she wouldn't wake the children. She walked to the small bathroom mirror. The woman staring back at her looked older than her 26 years. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hair was pulled into a tired bun, a few curls escaping no matter how tightly she tried to tame them. Her face was thin, her cheekbones sharp from months of skipped meals. She splashed water on her face. Today had to work, today had to be different. She glanced at the folded eviction notice taped beside the mirror. Final warning. 3 words that felt heavier than stone. If she didn't come up with the money by Friday, they'd be out, no appeals, no extensions. She returned to the mattress and gently shook Malik's shoulder. "Baby," she whispered, "wake up." His eyes fluttered open. "Morning, Mama," he mumbled. She smiled, though her chest hurt. "Morning, my brave boy." He sat up and immediately looked around. "Is there breakfast?" he asked quietly. Lena hesitated for half a second too long. Malik noticed. "It's okay," he said quickly. "I'm not that hungry." She kissed his forehead. "You shouldn't have to say that." Ava stirred, letting out a small whimper. "Mama," she murmured. Lena scooped her into her arms, holding her close. "I'm here, baby." Ava's eyes barely opened. "My tummy hurts." Lena closed her eyes. She had $2.17 in her wallet, not enough for medicine, not enough for food, not enough for bus fare to the clinic. She rocked Ava gently while Malik put on his worn sneakers. "Mama," Malik said softly, "are you going to the nice diner today?" Lena froze. "How do you know about that?" she asked. Malik shrugged. "You talked in your sleep. You said maybe they throw food away." Her throat tightened. She had passed that diner every day on her walk to her old cleaning job, before the job was cut, before the company downsized, before her life shrank into survival mode. The diner was bright, warm, always full. She had never gone inside until today. "I don't know yet," she said carefully. "I might try." Malik nodded slowly. "Okay," he hesitated. "Mama." "Yes, baby. If they say no, it's okay. We can just drink water." Lena turned away so he wouldn't see her cry. She dressed Ava in the cleanest clothes she could find and wrapped her in Malik's jacket. Then she knelt in front of them. "Listen to me," she said softly. "No matter what happens today, you stay together. Malik, you hold Ava's hand. Promise me." "I promise," he said seriously. Lena grabbed her small purse and checked it one last time. $2, an eviction notice. A photo folded in half. She slipped the photo into her pocket. It was old, creased. A picture of her older sister, Naomi, in a military uniform, smiling proudly. Naomi had always said, "If anything ever happens, the world is bigger than your fear." Lena whispered, "I wish you were here." The walk to the diner felt longer than usual. Every step reminded her of the risk she was taking. People passed her without a glance. Cars splashed muddy water near her shoes. When she finally reached the diner, her stomach twisted into knots. The windows glowed warm and golden. She could see plates piled high with food, hear laughter, smell bacon, her children pressed closer to her legs. "Stay right here," she told them gently. "I'll be right back." She opened the door, a bell chimed, every head turned. The noise inside felt overwhelming. She approached the counter slowly. "I'm sorry," she said to the waitress. "I don't want to bother anyone. I was just wondering if there's any food that's going to be thrown away today." The waitress blinked, startled, before she could answer. "Hey," The manager's voice cracked like a whip. What do you think you're doing? Lena turned. I just asked. Get out, he snapped. We don't serve beggars. She tried again. Please, I have children outside. I'm not asking for money, just food you don't need. The manager's eyes narrowed. That's when people like you start stealing, he said. That was the moment her hope cracked. The moment this ordinary morning began turning into a nightmare. Lena didn't come to that diner looking for pity. She came because she had no other choice, because love sometimes pushes a mother into places pride never would. And she had no idea that this simple act of desperation would set into motion a chain of events that would change her life forever. The walk back toward the diner doors felt like walking toward a firing line. Lena stood just inside the entrance, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. The warmth of the diner contrasted sharply with the cold knot in her stomach. Behind her, through the glass, she could see Malik shifting his weight from foot to foot, holding Ava close as she rested her head against his shoulder. He was trying to be brave. That made it worse. Lena took one careful step forward. I'm sorry, she said again, her voice barely steady. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just wanted to speak to whoever's in charge. A few customers glanced up, mildly annoyed at the interruption. The manager turned slowly, his jaw already clenched. You're looking at him, he said, and I already told you get out. Lena clasped her hands together so tightly her fingers hurt. Sir, please, she said. I'm not asking you to serve me. I just wanted to ask if there's anything left over, anything at all. The manager snorted. Leftovers, he repeated loudly. This isn't a soup kitchen. A man at a nearby table chuckled. The sound sliced through her. I know, Lena said. I know it's not. I just thought maybe at the end of the day, you thought wrong, the manager cut in. We don't hand out freebies to every sob story that walks in off the street. Her cheeks burned. They're my children, she said softly, nodding toward the door. My daughter is sick. I just need to get her through today. The manager's eyes flicked to the window. He saw Malik, saw Ava's pale face. For a brief moment, something unreadable passed across his expression. Then it vanished. So you're using kids now? He said loudly. Bringing them out here to make people feel sorry for you? Lena gasped. No, she whispered. I would never. That's exactly what you're doing, he snapped. Dragging them around instead of finding a job. Her shoulders stiffened. I had a job, she said. I cleaned offices. They cut staff. I've been applying everywhere. Excuses, he said flatly. Everyone's got them. A waitress hovered nearby, clearly uncomfortable. Sir, she murmured, maybe we could just... The manager shot her a look. Stay out of it. The waitress retreated. The room felt heavier. Lena felt smaller. She took a shaky breath. I'll leave, she said. I promise. If there's any bread. The manager's laugh echoed across the diner. Bread, he said. You really have no shame. That was when the whispers started. Is she homeless? Why would she bring kids here? Someone should call security. Each word landed like a stone. Lena's vision blurred. She thought of Ava's fever, of Malik pretending not to be hungry, of the eviction notice taped beside the mirror. She reached into her purse and pulled out the $2. I can pay, she said quickly. It's not much, but... The manager stared at the money like it offended him. Put that away, he said. You can't afford anything here. He stepped closer, invading her space. You think you can just walk into my restaurant and make my customers uncomfortable? I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry doesn't fix anything, he said. Leaving does, he raised his voice. Everyone, I apologize for the disturbance. Some people don't understand boundaries. A few customers nodded. Others avoided looking at her altogether. Lena felt the room closing in. She turned toward the door. That should have been the end of it, but it was. Wait, the manager said suddenly. She froze. He reached behind the counter and grabbed a small paper bag. Her heart leapt. Hope, dangerous and fragile, sparked inside her. Thank you, she breathed. The manager smirked. Oh, don't thank me yet. He tossed the bag toward her. She fumbled and caught it. Inside was a single bread roll, bare, plain, no wrapping. Here, he said loudly, since you're so desperate. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she whispered again. But he wasn't finished. Actually, he added, his voice dripping with contempt, on second thought. He stepped forward, snatched the bag from her hands, and hurled it across the diner. The roll hit the floor. The sound was soft, but the humiliation was deafening. A collective gasp swept the room. Lena's breath caught. The manager pointed at the roll. Pick it up, he said, if you want it that badly. Her legs felt weak. Please, she said, her voice breaking. You don't have to do this. He crossed his arms. I do, he said. Because people like you need to learn. The silence was unbearable. Lena looked around, at the faces, at the eyes that slid away, at the people who had full plates and warm coffee and nothing to lose by speaking up. No one moved. Her knees hit the floor. The cold tile sent a shock through her body. She reached for the bread with shaking hands. Tears dripped onto the floor. Outside, Malik pressed his face to the glass. "Mama," he mouthed. She couldn't look at him. The manager smiled. "That's better," he said. "I'll get out." That was when the door opened, the bell rang, and everything changed. The sound of engines filled the air, deep, powerful, unmistakable. Conversations stopped. Heads turned, leather jackets appeared in the doorway. One after another, bikers stepped inside. The room went still. The manager scoffed nervously. "Great," he muttered. "Just what we need." A tall man with a gray, streaked beard stepped forward. His eyes went straight to Lena, her face, her hands, the bread on the floor. His jaw tightened. He knelt down in front of her. "Hey," he said softly, "you don't belong on the floor." She looked up, her breath caught. "Marcus," she whispered, his eyes filled. "Yeah," he said, "it's me." The manager frowned. "You know her?" Marcus stood, slow, controlled. "Yes," he said. The manager waved a hand dismissively. "Then take her and leave. She caused enough trouble." Marcus didn't move. Instead, he looked around the room, at the customers, at the staff, at the cameras on the walls. Then back at the manager. "You humiliated her," Marcus said quietly. The manager laughed. "She humiliated herself?" Marcus stepped closer. "So did you," he replied. The room held its breath. Outside, more engines roared. Sirens wailed faintly. The manager swallowed. And in that moment, standing between his cruelty and her despair, Marcus became something more than a stranger. He became the line the manager never expected anyone to cross. And as Marcus prepared to speak again, no one in that diner knew that the next words out of his mouth would change every life in that room. The diner felt like it was holding its breath. No forks clinked. No coffee poured. No one even blinked. Marcus stood between Lena and the manager like a wall, solid, unmoving, unafraid. The leather of his jacket bore faded patches and symbols, the kind earned over years, not bought for show. Behind him, the bikers formed a quiet half-circle, their presence calm but undeniable. The manager cleared his throat. "Listen," he said, forcing a laugh that cracked halfway through. "I don't know who you think you are, but you can't just barge in here and—" Marcus raised a single hand. The manager stopped talking, not because he was told to, because something in Marcus's eyes warned him not to continue. "You don't get to speak yet," Marcus said evenly. The manager bristled. "This is my establishment." Marcus nodded slowly. "For now." A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. Lena remained on the floor, frozen, her fingers still wrapped around the bread. She looked up at Marcus, confusion and fear mixing in her tear-streaked eyes. "Marcus, please," she whispered. "It's okay, I'll just go." He crouched beside her again, his voice softening instantly. "No," he said gently. "You won't." He picked up the bread from her hands and placed it carefully on the counter. Then he helped her to her feet. The entire room watched. When she swayed, he steadied her. "You don't ever have to kneel for food," he said quietly. "Not today, not ever." The manager scoffed again, louder this time. "Real noble speech, but I still want her gone." Marcus stood slowly and turned. "Do you know who she is?" he asked. The manager rolled his eyes. "She's a problem." Marcus took one step forward. "She is Lena Carter." No reaction. "So what?" The manager snapped. Marcus inhaled. "She is the sister of Staff Sergeant Naomi Carter," he said. A few of the bikers shifted. A man near the window sucked in a sharp breath. The manager frowned. "I don't care who her sister is." Marcus's voice dropped. "You should." He turned slightly, gesturing to the patches on his jacket. "Naomi Carter pulled me out of a burning convoy in Fallujah, took shrapnel meant for me, bled out before the medevac arrived." The diner went deathly silent. Lena's knees weakened again. Marcus caught her arm. "She died saving 5 men," he continued. "Men who now stand behind me." The bikers removed their helmets, every single one. Some bowed their heads, others stared straight at the manager. "And this woman," Marcus said, placing a hand over his heart, "is the reason Naomi fought as hard as she did, because she wanted her little sister and her niece and nephew to live in a better world." Lena covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. The manager shifted uncomfortably. "That's tragic," he muttered, "but it doesn't change the rules here." That was the wrong thing to say. Marcus straightened fully now. The air around him changed. "What rules?" he asked calmly. "The ones that let you humiliate a mother in front of her children?" The manager raised his voice. "She was begging." "No," Marcus snapped. "She was asking for mercy." The word echoed, mercy. Marcus turned to the crowd. "Any one of you could have helped," he said. "Any one of you could have spoken up." People looked away, ashamed. Then Marcus turned back to the manager. "And now," he said, "it's my turn." The manager laughed nervously. "You still haven't told me who you are." Marcus smiled. It wasn't friendly. "My name is Marcus Hale," he said, "president of the Iron Vow Writers Association." The manager blinked. "So?" So, Marcus continued, we raise money for veterans, widows, and children of fallen soldiers. Murmurs spread. And last year alone, Marcus added, we donated over $12 million to community businesses. The manager swallowed. Businesses like this one, Marcus finished. The color drained from the manager's face. What? Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. He slid it across the counter. Check the name on your lease. The manager opened it. His hands trembled. His eyes scanned, then widened. No, that's not possible, Marcus leaned in. This diner is owned by the Hale Community Trust, he said calmly, and I'm its director. The room erupted in gasps. The manager stumbled back. You can't. I can, Marcus said, and I will. He turned slightly. A woman in a tailored coat stepped forward from the bikers. She held a badge. City Inspector Rachel Moore, she announced. We received complaints. The manager's mouth opened and closed like a fish. And, Marcus added, the incident was recorded. He pointed to the cameras. And live-streamed. A teenager at a table whispered, I'm watching it right now. The manager's legs buckled. Lena clutched Marcus's sleeve. Marcus, I don't want trouble. He looked at her gently. This isn't trouble, he said. This is truth. He turned back to the manager one last time. You disrespected a Gold Star family member, Marcus said. You violated company ethics, city conduct codes, and basic human decency. Police sirens grew louder outside. And you did it in front of witnesses. The manager sank into a chair. I didn't know, he whispered. Marcus's voice hardened. That's the problem, he said. You didn't care to know. He stepped back. Officer, he said calmly as police entered the diner, this man assaulted a civilian and created a hostile environment. Lena stood frozen. The nightmare was ending, but something deeper was beginning. Marcus turned to her again. You're not alone anymore, he said softly. Tears streamed freely down her face. I just wanted food for my children, she sobbed. Marcus nodded. And now, he said, they'll never go hungry again. In a single moment, the man who thought he ruled that diner lost everything, and the woman who knelt on the floor rose into the protection of people who never forgot what sacrifice truly meant. The police didn't rush. They didn't shout. They didn't need to. The truth had already disarmed the room. Two officers stepped inside, their radios crackling softly as they surveyed the scene. The stunned manager slumped in his chair, the cameras blinking red above the counter, the silent crowd pressed against their seats like witnesses afraid of their own reflections. Sir, one officer said to the manager, we're going to need you to stand up. The manager looked around desperately, searching for someone, anyone, to save him. No one moved. On what grounds? He croaked. Marcus spoke before the officer could answer. Verbal assault, public humiliation, discrimination, he said calmly, and intentional emotional harm to a minor witnessed by her children outside that door. The officer nodded. That's enough. They helped the manager to his feet. His voice shook. This is blown out of proportion. I didn't touch her. You broke something more important, the officer replied. Her dignity. As he was escorted away, whispers filled the diner, not of gossip, but of reckoning. The door closed behind him. Silence followed. Then Marcus turned to the staff. This diner will remain open today, he said, but management is changing immediately. A collective exhale swept through the room. The waitress who had tried to speak earlier wiped her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus nodded. Then he turned to Lena. She stood there, still stunned, Malik and Ava now clinging to her legs after being ushered inside by one of the bikers. Ava's head rested weakly against Lena's hip. Marcus knelt again. This time it wasn't in defense, it was in care. How long has she had the fever? He asked gently. 2 days, Lena replied, her voice small. I couldn't afford the medicine. Marcus looked at one of the bikers. Call Dr. Feldman. The man nodded and stepped outside. Lena shook her head quickly. No, I don't want to be a burden. Marcus met her eyes. You're not, he said. You never were. He stood and addressed the room. Does anyone here have a problem with these children eating? No one answered. A man at a table stood abruptly. Please, he said, let me pay. Another woman raised her hand. Me too. Marcus smiled slightly. They'll eat, he said, but not out of charity. He turned to the waitress. Bring them breakfast, he said, whatever they want. The waitress nodded eagerly. Malik's eyes widened. Anything, he whispered. Marcus knelt to his level. Anything, he repeated. Malik glanced at his mother. She nodded through tears. Pancakes, Malik said carefully. With strawberries. Ava murmured, eggs. The waitress hurried away. Lena covered her face, sobbing openly now. I don't understand, she said. Why are you doing all this? Marcus sat across from her. Because your sister saved my life, he said, and because kindness doesn't expire with death. He pulled out his wallet, not for money, for a photograph. Naomi, Lena's breath hitched. She talked about you, Marcus said. All the time, she said you were stronger than you believed. Lena pressed the photo to her chest. I miss her every day. So do we, Marcus replied. The food arrived, hot, plentiful. Malik stared like it might vanish. It's okay, Lena whispered. Eat. As the children ate, Marcus spoke quietly. Where are you living? Lena hesitated. An apartment on Cedar Street. Marcus nodded. Not for long, her eyes widened. I can't. You can, he said gently. And you will. He leaned back. The trust will cover your rent, he said, and medical care. Starting today, Lena shook her head. I don't want handouts. Marcus smiled softly. This isn't a handout, he said. It's an investment. In what? In your future, he continued. You'll have access to childcare, job training, education if you want it. Lena laughed weakly. Education? I barely finished high school. Marcus's eyes were steady. Naomi wanted you to go to college, he said. She told me that once. Lena froze. She did. She said you were smart, Marcus replied, and tired. Lena cried again, this time with a smile breaking through the pain. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Marcus shook his head. Nothing, he said. Just live well. The city inspector returned with paperwork. Effective immediately, she announced. The former manager is terminated. Charges are pending. Applause broke out. The manager's power dissolved into memory. Marcus stood. This place will be retrained, he said, and renamed. He looked at Lena. Naomi's table, he said. Lena gasped. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time that day. Ava giggled weakly as Marcus handed her a juice. You're safe now, he said. Lena looked around, at the people, at her children eating, at the future unfolding in front of her. I just asked for food, she whispered. Marcus smiled. And you were answered with justice. The woman who walked in with nothing walked out with dignity restored. And the man who tried to break her learned that cruelty always meets its reckoning. 5 years later. The same city. A very different morning. Sunlight poured through tall windows, warming polished wooden floors and walls decorated with photographs, smiling families, veterans in uniform, children holding graduation certificates. A small bronze plaque near the entrance read, NAOMIS table, a place where dignity is always served first. Lena Carter stood near the counter, dressed in a soft blue blouse and a neatly pressed blazer. Her hair fell in confident curls around her shoulders. There was a calm strength in her posture now, no fear, no apology in the way she took up space. She checked her watch. Malik, she called gently. You ready? A tall teenager jogged out from the back, backpack slung over one shoulder. Almost, Malik said. Coach says I'm late because I'm too responsible. Lena laughed. That sounds like a compliment, he grinned. He says it's because of you. Across the room, Ava sat at a small table coloring, her cheeks full and glowing with health. She hummed softly, tongue poking out in concentration. Mom, Ava said without looking up, Uncle Marcus is here. Lena turned. Marcus Hale stood in the doorway, older now, more gray in his beard, but smiling with the same quiet warmth. Hey, he said. Lena crossed the room and hugged him. Still showing up unannounced, she teased. He chuckled. Some habits don't change. They pulled apart. You ready for today? Marcus asked. Lena nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. The bell above the door chimed as customers entered, office workers, families, students, veterans. Naomi's table was full most mornings, not because the food was free, but because respect was. A reporter set up a camera near the window. Ms. Carter, she said, thank you for agreeing to speak with us. Lena took a breath. 5 years ago, she couldn't speak without shaking. Now she met the lens calmly. This place started with an act of cruelty, Lena said, but it survived because of compassion. She gestured around. Every person who walks through that door deserves to be treated like they matter. Marcus watched quietly, pride in his eyes. Later, as the lunch rush slowed, Lena sat with Marcus at a corner table. You ever think about that day? She asked. Marcus nodded. Every time I hear an engine, she smiled softly. I was so scared, she admitted. I thought my life was over. Marcus shook his head. It was just beginning. She looked out the window. I finished my degree, she said. Social work. Next month I start at the community center. Marcus raised his coffee. Naomi would have loved that. Lena swallowed. I named my scholarship fund after her, she said, for single mothers. Marcus's voice thickened. She'd be honored. Malik returned, breathless. Mom, we won, she laughed. That's my boy. Ava ran over and climbed into Marcus's lap. Read me the story again, she demanded. The one about the brave lady? Marcus smiled. Which brave lady? You, Ava said, pointing at Lena. Lena's eyes filled. Sweetheart, she said, I wasn't brave. Ava frowned. Yes, you were. You didn't give up. Marcus nodded. That's bravery. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the room. A bell rang. Another customer entered. Another story began. Once she asked for food. She was met with cruelty. But cruelty does not have the final word. Kindness does. Justice does. Humanity does. Never judge a person by their moment of desperation. A single act of kindness can turn humiliation into hope. And when we choose compassion over cruelty, we don't just change one life. We change generations.